Hi, I'm Arlene McIntyre, Creative Director at Ventura Design, and you're listening to Shut the Front Door, a light-hearted podcast that will bring you through the front door and into the homes of influential and interesting people. Home for me is one of the most important things in my life. My career has fortunately given me the opportunity to work closely with people and to help them create a home they will cherish forever. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by the wonderful Hugh Wallace. Hugh is an award-winning architect and the founding partner of Douglas Wallace Consultants, Ireland's leading brand environment creators through design and architecture. For over 40 years, Hugh's passion for creative design has engaged with audiences across Ireland and beyond to create conversations. Hugh is a regular welcome face on our TV screens as a presenter of two of Ireland's most beloved home renovation shows, The Great House Revival and Home of the Year. It's my great pleasure to welcome Hugh to Shut the Front Door. Hello, Hugh.
Hello, how are you today?
I am good, and how are you?
I'm in great form. I had a lovely weekend but at the moment I get very confused as to whether it's the weekend or it's sort of the middle of the week.
Yeah, honestly, like it's a big mishmash. Nobody really knows. You're kind of scratching your head going, it was actually on Saturday. I was going, is today Saturday or Sunday?
Yeah.
One of those moments.
It's amazing, isn't it? But
Yeah,
it's also quite interesting because it's great to engage with the kitchen again. You know, we have lots of time to be trying out new recipes and menus and the weather is fabulous. So it's back to barbecues and salads.
I know. We have been blessed. The weather has been really good. And have you tried the old banana breads?
No, not yet. I love things like, you know, if you get the bananas and you leave them in the skin, put them on the barbecue and burn them. And then, and then when you
Really?
open them up, there's this amazing banana toffee in the
Oh,
middle with a light custard or a little sort of a little bit of cream as well, or maybe some fabulous vanilla ice cream.
oh God, that sounds scrumptious. I got to try that. That sounds really tasty.
It's a great way to use up aging bananas.
Yeah, or that or banana bread. Yeah, it seems to be one or the other. But you know what's nice is like you just said, we have more time to cook and enjoy those small pleasures and also to enjoy, eating and just enjoying having a little longer to, chat around the table and have something to eat and not feel like you're always in a rush.
Correct. And it's sort of like families are getting back around the dining table. You know,
Yeah.
they're actually coming together to have
Hmm.
food at one time rather than, you know, one family member is out doing one thing and another's doing another and they sort of meet across the kitchen grabbing food.
Yeah, very true. So life in lockdown has been treating you well?
Yeah, I found I'd have to say you have some days where you wake up and you just go, is it real? And it is, you know, at the end of the day, it is negative. There is huge implications for all of us, both personally and also in terms of work as well. So, you know, it isn't without its difficulties.
Mm-hmm. That's so true.
So it's like, you know, we're getting sites back we have sites going back on site now. Some of the construction work is starting, but at the end of the day, I think it's just going to be a reflection for all of us as to how we move forward.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And how do you think that's all going to work on site?
Yeah, I don't think it will be that easy. And
Mm-hmm.
there was a bit of confusion. Was it construction work had gone on back on site, but now it's clarified that it's only external work on site. So that's making it a little bit more complicated as well.
Yeah.
And last Friday was the first day of back to filming for the next series of the Great House Revival. So that was wonderful to be able to, you know, get out of Dublin and go down and meet the crew and social distance and do our filming and get all excited again about these amazing projects.
I know it's a fantastic show. I want to get into all of that with you. And how did that work with the filming? Were you able to successfully film and practice social distancing and it all worked out okay?
Yeah, it's quite interesting because you know the crew quite well because we've been working together for the past 4 years. You know how you're going to work, where you're going to move. So there was, everything was set up, all our gels, our masks, all
Hmm.
our protocols. You have your meeting beforehand, from a health and safety point of view, and we had a great day.
Sounds super. Gosh, it must have been, yeah. Anything to get out and back to normal is all good for the soul.
Oh, it's so healthy. It
Yeah.
really is so healthy.
And working kind of remotely and virtually, how's that been working out for you, separate to filming?
Well, I found it very difficult, I have to say, because I was the only person who was in the. I actually went into the office because I needed access to be able to print A1 drawings and information like that, and there was nobody else in the office. So luckily enough, I was able to get out of the office, or sorry, get
Yeah.
out of the home, get into the office, and do work. So that
Mhm.
that was great. But the whole, it's quite difficult because everything takes longer. You can't get your finger and go change that, or could you move that? All of a sudden, you have to, look at drawings, photocopy bits of drawings, do little doodles, scan them, and send them around. So it just makes things longer. But in a funny way, it may actually cause you to reflect and review things in a sort of in a calmer mind.
Mhm.
So I think from a creative point of view and from doing work, I think that you're reflecting more on what you're doing and making sure what you're doing you're only doing once.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. What have you kind of gained out of all of this, do you think? I mean, has the lockdown been beneficial to you in some ways?
I think first of all, I've reflected that I'm very lucky to have Martin as my partner.
Mhm.
And we're getting on really well. Martin's business, his hairdressing business Origin, has obviously closed and will be reopening in July, but he's had 4 months of lockdown, and he's managing that very well, and we're managing it very well. He's bought his bicycle, so he's off cycling every day. It's interesting how you become social friends with people.
Mhm.
You're on the phone, you're talking to people you haven't talked to for ages because you. I don't know. We gave an excuse, we were too busy, but now all of a sudden I'm phoning my cousins and chatting to them and my friends in the UK. So from that point of view, socially, it's been great.
Yeah, I know. And even just chatting with complete strangers, it's like we all have this in common. And it's lovely, really, to have something to all chat about. And, we all want to get out of it. We're all in it together. So,
Yeah, we've become so all of a sudden our neighbors, we have sort of, if it's a nice sunny day, we end up in the evening at the front of the house, sitting on our separate steps having chats through the railings. And that's great, so it is quite and everybody I think is very sociable and concerned and worried for other people's health and
mhm.
how they are mentally, because it's a huge challenge mentally for an awful lot of people and families, stuck at home with their kids, and there is a reality of frustration and not being able to get out.
Yeah, that's very, very true. I've been chatting to a lot of people, friends, and through work, and it's just extremely challenging. Trying to do, parent to then teach and then work from home is quite the juggle. It's not easy for a lot of people out there.
And to set up a routine, it's so important to have a routine that otherwise everything sort of becomes a bit joined together, and you're not quite sure, are you in rest space or in workspace or in personal space, and it all
Mhm.
gets a bit mushy around the edges. And I think that definition of different time for the individual and for your children is also very important,
Mhm.
because it allows you time to think. And we also then all obviously all get a bit paranoid and worried and what if and what. But you have to let that go. You can't. It's not of our making. It's we can't have any you know guilt or responsibility for that, other than we have to be responsible to others and to ourselves in relation to washing our hands, social distancing, and all of that good stuff.
Yeah, true. And do you think, Hugh, that a lot of people, as a result of the COVID-19, will look at their homes differently in the future, like when they're setting out or planning out their homes, from a design point of view, about spaces and how important it is to space plan?
Oh, I think it'll be just so important because
Yeah.
the reality of this shutdown is it's brought forward the process of people working from home. So everybody had an excuse why they weren't working from home. The computer didn't work. We didn't have the printer. You didn't have the technology. But now
Hmm.
we know we do. And
Hmm.
therefore, within the home environment, we're going to have to create flexible workspaces, which you can, go into or go to. And that's what that space is for. And if you like, you can close yourself away from the rest of the family. It might well be that you'll be looking at bedrooms where the bed actually goes up into the wall, and it's sort of an office during the daytime and maybe a bedroom in the evening. But but space and the ability to work from home will now be very important. And the reality of working from home is that we will be having much more conversations and communication online, which by its nature is noisy. And there's nothing worse than being the third party who's not involved in the conversation having to listen to it.
It's very true. And just to find your little private corner in the house that's yours, that we're going to just completely, everyone will have to completely review their home spaces, I think,
Yeah,
between.
and also, what I think is also very important that's coming out of this is the ability to have proper parks and facilities available for kids and for families which are safe. And really, when we think about our cities, an awful lot of our parks aren't safe. They aren't places that you want to go and have your picnic. If you go out to parks in Mulhuldert or Blanchardstown or Tala, those you do not want to sit in the middle of a windy grass field with your picnic, and they are not social spaces.
Mm-hmm.
And we have got to look at how we create social spaces that are safe and inviting and calm and places where we want to communicate and talk.
That's so true. That's so true. We're so fortunate that we live next to the Phoenix Park,
Yeah,
and we've been having walks, big walks in the morning and big walks in the evening, and of course that's something we never would have done before. Maybe twice a week, max. But again, we're not sitting in traffic these days. We have a little more time in our hands, and then having a really beautiful park to walk in and around is just so important right now.
and it is, and it's one of the things that's going to be have to be addressed. The whole idea of internalized courtyards. Um,
Hmm.
Around apartment schemes, these small, where everybody looks into these courtyards,
Hmm.
which are usually very hard in their landscaping because there's a car park underneath. Uh, and yet, these are supposed to be our social spaces, but they aren't. You can't go there and have your picnic. You can't go there and kick a football around. And there's a lack of understanding of the quality and requirement of proper public open parks and spaces that have security, that have a coffee shop, that have five-a-side football, that have Stephen's Green, that have grass and plants.
Hmm. Yeah, just so important. Building communities now is just going to be like more important than ever before, and those areas and where we all congregate, and it's lovely to be able to see the children, playing in the park, and more and more people are coming in with their families and like that. If you don't have a park, you really need somewhere to go.
You do, and the issue is that unfortunately the council's parks are just a pain in the ass for
Yeah.
because they have to maintain them.
Hmm.
And then you have issues over antisocial behavior. And that all that needs to be addressed. We need to understand that parks will cost money, but they're an absolute integral part of our social and community fabric.
100%. And Hugh, I'd love to chat with you, if I could, a bit about your first childhood memories of home. Can you share some of those with me?
Yeah, well, my I lived in Highfield Park up in Dundrum
Hmm.
in a semi-detached house, and my memories of that are of this back garden with the old railway, Harcourt Street railway line at the end of the garden. And when I was very young, the steam trains used to run at the end of the garden. That's how old I
Wow.
am. And out to Bray. And I remember the line being dug up and abandoned. Um, and my memory is of a Labrador dog in the back garden, and my mum and dad, and the greenhouse, and my dad was an avid gardener, so there was tomatoes in the greenhouse and all our vegetables in the back garden, and my mum taught music lessons, so there was piano forte in the house, and as a kid on a Saturday night, my parents and their friends would go around different houses and they'd have musical evenings for entertainment.
Hmm.
And I'd sit on the staircase and listen to them sing, songs and medleys from musicals and West Side Story, and all of those would have been going on in the house when I was a kid and growing up. So those are my memories of Highfield Park.
Lovely. And can you describe your family home, the style of your family home?
My family home was three up, three down, dining room, living room, best room, kitchen, a small little kitchen at the back. And really, I remember the winters were just freezing. So your time was spent, close the door, don't let the heat out. Um, so that's my abiding memory of the house. And you only had a bath once a week.
Hmm.
There was no shower. I remember the first shower arriving, which was this plastic hose pipe that you jammed on the hot and cold tap in the bath. And then the plastic pipe went up to this little sad shower head, which had a fixing in the wall.
Oh, God.
And there you go. Yeah, this shower arrived, which was like amazing. And then you could never get the heat right, so it either froze you or scolded you, but it was never right because somebody in the kitchen would turn the tap on and take the water.
Oh, God, that's hilarious. Or flush the loo.
Yeah, yeah. No, it was just so it's and as a kid when I was my dad used to grow dahlias for flower shows,
Hmm.
and he used to win cups. He'd win cups for his vegetables and his onions and the size of his leeks. But he also won for dahlias, and so I'd been watching some swashbuckling program on the black and white television, and then I decided I'd go out and be a pirate, and I'd attack the dahlias, which were in my mind these pirates. And so I broke his prize dahlias. And my mother, I was on a Friday, and my mother came home. She'd been out with the girls and came home in horror and got sellotape and stuck the heads back on. So she could tell my father later in the evening of what had happened.
How old were you?
Oh, I was 4 or 5 at the time.
Oh, hilarious.
Yeah, so that
Yeah.
was, um, and my mum was great. She was a real. She loved style. She was a she was a triplet, but
Really? Wow.
yeah, yeah. So, but Sue, my mum Sue, and her sister, were amazing because they were identical.
Hmm.
uh, Sally. They were identical twins. So like when you think back, my mum and Sally went to Trinity, um,
Oh.
which this is we're back now in the 40s,
Hmm.
um, and they had a great time. They were both they were part of the arts club, and they were quite trendy. And because they were identical, if they got bored, they used to actually swap partners and see.
Oh my
Isn't
God.
that great?
Hilarious.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, that is hilarious. Can you imagine? And do their partners ever have any idea at all?
I never got that far with my mum, but it was, when and there, when you go back to that time, there was an innocence
Yeah, yeah.
about you know
That's
everything going on,
yeah.
and I went up to it was quite funny as well, living in that particular period because. Because socially it was just such a different time. Today it's very difficult to explain to different people today
Mm,
how
mhm.
how amazingly sort of conservative and really socially backward the country was.
Yeah. And innocent, as you described.
Yeah, but what comes out of that innocence was it wasn't. There was
Mhm.
deep nastiness going on in socially.
Right. That's true.
People like in when I was growing up in our house, this lady arrived and stayed with us because she was from the country and was
Hmm.
having a baby and she couldn't live at home.
Oh gosh.
Um, so you think about it's very difficult to say to somebody that happened.
Yeah.
That's what
Poor
50
girl.
years, 60 years ago.
Yeah. 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 Well, definitely from that point of view, it was certainly different. Yeah, and it definitely that was not innocent. That was just something, as you described, sinister. Definitely. So that tough, tough times as well.
Yes, as well as innocent and as well as
Mhm.
everything else.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
and it was so my that was my childhood. I very much enjoyed it as a kid, going out playing on the road. Your mother you get home from school and get a clip around the ear and told to go out and play.
Yeah, I know. No harm in that, actually.
No, but you don't. Again, that wouldn't be done today.
No. Oh, no, no, no. I know. I know. Those are the big things that kids are missing. I think they all need a little more fresh air these days.
They do, and
Mhm.
hopefully, funny enough, this present COVID crisis will encourage that out and play and away from the computer and away from social media.
Totally. And to be socially interactive, like just to learn how to have a conversation with each other and how to play with one another. And I was in a restaurant recently, Hugh, and I saw this big family, and they were out having Sunday lunch. And there was two kids who were both on their mobile phones, and they were texting each other across the table.
No,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah, and it's not good. Like I think it's important to be, able to have a conversation, um, just for them, for themselves. I worry about the future in many ways, actually, about those things. being able just to carry a conversation or to be able to look at somebody in the eye and chat to them, all those things are very important. How to write, handwrite.
Yes, yeah. No, and also to be able to communicate with people and not feel afraid. And
Yeah, very
I
true.
just wonder because all the kids are, on all these apps chatting all that to one another. I wonder are they losing their ability to actually have normal conversation?
Yeah, they are. No, for sure, they definitely are. It's not good. So, like you said, hopefully, if anything, we'll get them out playing again and get a little more interaction going, which would be great for
Yeah,
everyone.
yeah.
Yeah. So, tell me a little bit about your teenage bedroom. What did that look like?
My teenage bedroom had my father made a bunk bed. So I had a bunk bed in my bedroom. I
Hmm.
had my study desk. So when I pulled down my study desk, it became my drawing board when I was in college. It was a small box room with three external walls. So I was luckily enough that I could freeze to death in the winter months. I had a single bar heater
Oh
in the
no.
room, and the
Oh
room
no.
had ghastly wallpaper which my mother had put up, uh, which had flowers on it, and it was
Uh-huh.
all painted in beige and off white. And I had a lovely little single bulb in the middle of the room with a horrible little lampshade.
Oh dear.
So that was my bedroom, but it was also, my space to get away, to to work, to listen to music. I used to love, TV shows. Sorry, not radio shows
Hmm.
at the time. So you had BBC used to have amazing radio shows like Around the Horn, and the Goons, all that comedy that was sort of so avant-garde and out there, and
Hmm.
it was just amazing. Like I was amazed by that because it was so revolutionary and naughty and disrespectful,
Mm.
and it was also the double entendre. The implication of something else, like
Hmm.
on the Navy Lark, uh, and Captain Pugwash and all of those shows that expressed difference, people being different.
Hmm.
And I would have known I was different at the time, but I wasn't quite sure how I was different, if you know what I mean, in
Yes.
terms of my sexuality.
Hmm. And when then did your passion for architecture and design begin?
When I was about 5 or 6.
Really?
Yeah, I just always knew I loved design because I'm dyslexic.
Okay.
Drawing and shapes and forms
Hmm.
was just so much easier for me to relate to and to just to work in 3 dimensions and to be able to draw things. Like I spent my childhood drawing boats and battleships and sailing ships and houses, and that's my was always my passion. And I knew that's I wanted to become an architect from a really early age.
Wow. And you already had sort of an understanding of spaces, and
Yeah,
you were interested in spaces, obviously,
yeah.
from.
Like my Lego sets were all about building buildings, and my Meccano sets were all about building buildings and structures, and that's all I loved all that, and I loved my steam train sets, and you know and as a kid, I just loved design. I loved
Mhm,
color and textures and, just looking at things.
mhm,
I think it's amazing when if you ask people when they walk around, what does a building look like? The
Hmm.
vast majority haven't a clue. They don't know what Grafton Street looks like. They know what the first 5 meters from the ground up 5 meters look like. They know what shops are or what the shop front looks like. But if you ask them to describe the building overhead, they don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
And that to me is the best bit.
Hmm. And do you like strolling around Dublin City and or wherever in Ireland and kind of looking up and around and
Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah.
love, like, that's when I go to cities or I travel. I'm just so happy to do nothing but look around and look up and see spectacular architecture and design. It doesn't matter whether it's old or new or mad or not mad. I think architecture and our design of our environment is so important to the health of society. And
Yes.
unfortunately, in Ireland, we've lost that ability.
Mm. Yeah, that's true. I was chatting with someone else during the week, and they were pretty much saying the same thing. How the design, even like in towns such as like Florence or cities like Florence or Barcelona, how much thought went into the whole community and how everything was planned out. It wasn't just like it is here now in Dublin. You're seeing new you know, little areas popping up around the city, and there hasn't been a lot of thought put into them in
No,
terms of yeah the community and the planning around that.
no, and it's amazing if you walk around, um, uh, um, modern cities, and they are modern towns and cities of as I said, it doesn't really matter whether it's Swords or it's Finglas or Blanchardstown. In particular, our new cities, and they are not nice places. They are not
Yeah.
nice places to walk around.
Hmm.
And yet, we're just about to undertake about 200 development plans are about to go into process at the moment,
Mm.
and they'll have lovely big juicy words, and we should be doing this and we're going to do that and we're going to do the other, but at the end of the day what will be delivered will be frightening.
Gosh, scary.
Sorry about that, but that
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's something I'm very aware of at the moment, uh,
Mhm.
because of just some of the work we're doing in the office, and it is so important for our mental health and social mental health to have community spaces to be able to use our streets. And it's a bit like we need to go back and grab our streets for ourselves and put in plants and get rid of the car. And
Yeah.
yes, we need public transport, and
Hmm.
yes, we need bicycle lanes and walking lanes, but we also need density and height so we can deliver services and buses and public transport. And it's like the big, people are going on about and giving out about the idea of filling in Clontarf and filling in Sandymount Beach. I actually was out there yesterday and I'm going, of course it should be filled in. Sandymount was reclaimed 100 years ago or 200 years ago. So now it's time to reclaim the balance. It's time to reclaim from Monkstown out to the start of the South Wall. But I mean, the idea that anybody would do that, everyone would claim that's preposterous and taking away this and taking away that.
Yeah.
People need to live in cities, in communities, not not in at the counties surrounding Dublin.
Hmm. And what cities have done it well, in your opinion?
Well, I think really you have to look to the continent. You have to look to places like Denmark and Holland,
Hmm.
and you have to look at how they, from the start, integrated proper public transportation, cycling, and pedestrian into their cities. And they didn't say to people, don't buy a car. What they actually said is, you don't need to buy a car.
Mhm.
And we have to say, you don't need to buy a car. So why would you?
Mhm. Yeah. 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 They don't
But
have to even
in Ireland, you have to buy a car.
Yeah.
Because unless you can go in a straight line between A and B, preferably from the suburbs into the city centre, you can't go to the left or right because there is no public transport
That's
to
so
go
true.
to the left or right.
Yeah. And tell me a little bit about your college days.
College, I got into Bolton Street. I just gobbled it up. I loved it. It was, wonderful. It was enlightening. I, discovered my sexuality. I discovered creativity, and it was just wonderful. The whole experience in college was amazing, and it was also the friends I met in college. And again, that was a period in Ireland we're now in the late 70s.
Mhm.
So there was liberalism, there was feminism, there was occupying buildings, there was rebelness, you know, there was sex, you know,
Yeah.
sex had arrived.
Happy days.
Honestly, it was liberal later, it was I can't, the things had been thrown off. You know,
I know.
the party had begun.
Yeah, the train had left the station, Hugh, at that stage.
Yeah, the party had begun.
Yeah.
And you had amazing people like Nell McCafferty,
Mhm.
and you had these amazing women. You had David Norris. You had the start of the whole Hirschfield Center and homosexuality, and people discussing these things.
Mhm.
You could get the pill. Um, there was it was amazing. The music had changed.
Mhm.
The actual dance music had changed. You could grab her from on the floor.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm sure when everybody goes to college, it's a liberating experience.
Oh, yeah.
But for
Yeah.
me, it was just fabulous. I just adored it.
So that opened up everything for you, really.
Yeah, it also meant that my dyslexia and all that was irrelevant.
Mhm.
So that was a liberating experience.
And did you travel much then?
Oh
Uh,
yeah, I went to America for a year at a wild time.
Great.
Down in I everybody went so in those days, amazing, isn't it? Like, so going back to, I think it was 87, 78, and the airline ticket was 360 quid
Mhm.
in punts. So it was 500 euros back 40 years ago. So it was a ransom of money.
Yeah.
And you had to take a loan out, and off you went. And you got your visa. Myself and a friend, Keith McBain, headed off, and everybody that we were traveling with, that we knew, and our friends, were going to Boston, Chicago, or staying in New York, where all the Irish were. And Keith and myself wanted to know no one, so we went to Dallas because it was on the telly.
JR.
JR. And we went down to Dallas and we became dustbin collectors and painters
Hilarious.
outside the buildings.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was wild. It was just so liberating. It was wonderful.
Mhm.
And there was a lady across the hall. This is how innocent we were.
Mhm.
Um, is that uh, So we ended up in a condominium with this lady called Becca across the corridor who thought she'd found the wildest people in the world. These two innocents from Ireland.
And did you get Stetsons?
We got Stetsons, got the cowboy boots, got the jeans, got the check shirt.
I love it.
You
Chaps.
know, Keith grew a moustache. I couldn't grow a moustache. And, we were living in the dream in the Dallas Fort Worth Metroplex.
I love it. Two cowboys from Ireland.
Yeah. But again, that innocence. So,
Yeah.
you
You were
know,
lovely.
yeah. And Becca looked after us and all our friends, and then we were lucky enough to end up in this. It was like being in Narcs, Mexico, at one point, where we ended up with traveling with her to a friend of hers who had this plantation house. And he was a dealer. He was a shipper of drugs out of Mexico through up into Texas, and there was literally bales of grass, so the whole house stank of grass, and bags, those sort of containers of coke, guys on the gates with guns.
Jeez Louise.
It was, these were experiences of a lifetime.
For sure. For sure. And so how long did you stay in Dallas?
For 4 months. Four
Okay.
months. It was just fabulous.
So then where did you go with
Back
your
up to New
four-way hat?
York, back up to New York, and stayed stayed in this penthouse overlooking Central Park,
Mm-hmm.
and at that point, I had pent up demands on my sort of sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
So Keith, the people we were staying with were fabulous, but so Keith was would be awake between 8 o'clock in the morning and 12 o'clock at night, and I'd go out at 6 o'clock in the evening and come back at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I never saw New York during the daytime because I was partying. I was lucky enough to meet a guy who brought me down to Studio 54, which was,
Oh,
mega studio at the time.
yeah. And what was that like? Describe
Amazing.
Studio 54.
Well, it was just as you see on the mood, and for somebody coming from Ireland
I know.
into this amazing place
Mm-hmm.
with you know amazing dancers, and there was an undercurrent of sexuality and just wildness and then clothes and just
Yeah.
all the clothes and women, and everybody was dressed, to impress,
Mm-hmm.
and partying.
I know. I've seen like the most incredible pictures of Bianca Jagger, and it was just so glamorous.
It was glamorous.
Yeah.
It was glamorous, and when you look back, when I think back to the 80s, the gay scene in Ireland and everywhere around the world was glam.
Mm-hmm.
You dressed up to go out. You dressed up in your best to impress because you were on the dance floor.
Yeah. Yeah.
You were strutting the moves.
Mm-hmm. You were expressing yourself, really.
Yeah, you
In
were, and
every
you
way.
were illegal, which was even better. You were illegal when you think back to it. There
Yeah.
was a whole subculture in Ireland. There was a whole subculture.
Mm-hmm. And did you bump into any other Irish there, or were you the only
No,
Irish? I know?
no, in
Wow.
America, no,
Yeah.
not one. I met them at the airport when I was coming home.
And like Irish people, I'd imagine back then would have been very private about, their lives and where they've been or what,
Oh, everything,
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, definitely. Interesting. So how long did you spend in New York?
We just spent a couple of weeks and then traveled home. But I just think when you go to places like Paris or New York or Rome or Madrid or any of the great cities of the world,
Hmm.
Chicago, these places are to be walked and enjoyed and to
Yeah.
be appreciated and to see the design. And God, when you look around and you look at the hotels or you go into people's homes and you see the quality of the design and the materials and the textures, and Jesus, you just eat it.
Yeah, true. So true. So inspiring. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. You always
honestly,
get back so impressed.
it's so important in our business and in our industry
Hmm.
to travel and to see and to touch and to enjoy.
Hmm. Yeah. And to learn. I mean, you must experience these things. You can't just simply look at them from, behind a desk. You
No,
need to get out there and travel and get that feeling, that sense of occasion, when you walk into certain hotel lobbies. You need to experience it.
absolutely. One of the best, one of those memorable. So for me, a memorable moment would have been walking into Costa, a
Hmm.
hotel in Paris.
Oh my God, love it.
But you think that how old that hotel is and how
Yeah,
even today it's edgy.
yeah,
Its music is edgy.
yeah. It's
It
cool.
Yeah, and would you walk in there not dressed up? Most certainly not.
No, not at all. It's quite the place, isn't it? It's really fantastic.
And those places are in all the cities, all the big cities around the world. And
Hmm.
they're the ones that, if you like, are for me, they're the inspiration.
Yeah, they are. It's a feeling, though, for me that I get. And so I'd love to be able to bring that feeling back to Ireland. It's
Mm,
something that they create. It's not even just the sofa or the fabric on the sofa or the wallpaper or the light feature or whatever. It's just the overall ambience, really.
it is.
Yeah.
It's creating. We were lucky enough. We've recently completed the Hard Rock Hotel
Hmm.
down in Parliament Street. Unfortunately, the day it opened was the last week of February. Um, but
Oh,
but to
God.
me, to go into that hotel it's about that's a destination. That's a statement about Dublin. It's a statement about great design and architecture, and a it's a destination.
Wow. I'm really looking forward to seeing it. Are you happy with it?
Oh, I just love it. I love the detail, the materials, the space, the just the atmosphere when you go in.
Yeah. I remember having my 16th birthday party in the Hard Rock Cafe in West Hollywood.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know, and it was, like, such a cool place to go, as you can imagine it when you're
Yeah.
16, the Hard Rock Cafe was, like, the place to go then. But, yeah, it's great to see it coming to Dublin. I'm dying to see it.
Oh, I mean, we were just so delighted with the result.
I bet.
It's and the attention to detail that
Mhm.
was demanded makes you push the boat out in terms of design.
Sounds interesting. And, look, Home of the Year has been such a massive success for you, Hugh, and it's always really fun to watch. And I love watching how all three of you can be in one space and have three completely different opinions about it.
It's great, isn't it?
Yeah, the banter between you is great as well. But I'm always interested in listening to all of your points because you all see three different things.
Yes, and also I think the great thing about the show is that you're getting three houses in each show. They're very different, and audiences either like one, don't like one, might be a bit iffy about the other, but there's lots of ideas, there's lots of amazing creativity and
Hmm.
design in the country. From if you like, everything taken out of the dustbin and the
True.
and secondhand and upcycling to like very posh and stunning.
Yeah. Yeah. And what do you look for? What is it you're looking for when you go into a house?
I think what I'm looking for is spontaneity and the personality and passion of the homeowner, to be totally honest. And sometimes when you go into houses, what you've got is a Pinterest home, but it's actually not the personality of the homeowner. And
Yes.
that to me is a shame.
Yeah. I so agree with you that their own stamp hasn't been put on the house. Because, every home tells, a story about the person that's living in it, really. And, it's nice to see objects and accessories that reflect them or their memories or.
Correct.
Hmm.
Correct. And it's quite because what happens is when you go around, you see a home and it's all full of yummy stuff and everything else. You pick it up and you look at it, but you know it's been bought and put on the shelf.
Yeah, it's been styled for them nearly.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But there isn't a story with the object.
True. Yeah.
And and you can tell that. You can actually tell that when you walk into a house.
But also, they would have been cleaning the house for 2 weeks before you arrived. And everything, has been well thought out before the three judges walk through their home. I can't even imagine the pressure that the guests have knowing that you're going to be walking through the home with the film crew. So,
They do a huge amount of work, the home.
yeah.
They
Yeah.
really do. Now, I have to say, one or two, you have to go in and get your marigold gloves out.
Oh, really? Oh, really? And which do you enjoy more, Home of the Year or The Great House Revival? I know they're very different, but
They're very different. I love boat shows. I think I'm very lucky to have two amazing shows. Uh,
yeah, you
and
are.
yeah, and the Great House Restoration is amazing. And the owners and the people who engage with those houses are amazing because my God, do they have complicated and difficult journeys on the way.
Hmm.
And in most of their cases, they all have stumbles and horrible things happen and chimneys have to come down that they didn't think had to and whatever else. And the vast majority of these people get no help, no grants, nothing.
Wow.
And if they do, it's very minor. And in fact, by the time you've dealt with all the red tape, you should sort of go, I shouldn't have bothered.
Yeah, you're exhausted.
Yeah, and so much of our architectural heritage is disappearing. And for me, when you go around and you look at our villages and towns and you see the desolation of the main street, um, and we're not addressing how they should be brought back to life.
Hmm.
Um, and that needs to be done by tax incentives. So if you're an owner occupier or you own a building and it's going to be for permanent residents, any money that you spend on that building should be just written off against personal tax, the entire amount. And
Oh, wow. Oh,
that's the only way we're going to drive people back into our towns and villages.
that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then
Gosh.
I'm just starting June. I start on a new program, My Bungalow Bliss,
Hmm.
which is next year is 50 years since the book was originally written,
Yeah.
um, and the impact that that's had on our countryside and socially and the way we live has been phenomenal.
Hmm. Gosh. My Bungalow Bliss. So that's coming out next year.
Well, we're starting it this year, but it'll take a year to film and it'll go.
Wow. That sounds super.
Yeah, so it's four projects four young, talented Irish architects showing their creativity in transforming the languishing bungalow into a piece of architectural perfection.
And
And
are they working on four different bungalows, or
four
are
different bungalows.
I see.
Four.
Wow, that'll be good.
Yeah, yeah.
Fantastic. And you're kind of working with them behind the scenes and talking them through the process and
No,
all
I'm,
that.
I'm presenting that show.
You're presenting it fantastic. Wow. I'll look
Yeah,
forward to seeing that.
yeah. So that'll be great fun.
And tell me about your own home. Just can you describe your own personal style to me?
Well, our style at the moment is a rented house. So
Okay.
if you're asking our style going forward,
Yep.
where we're trying to buy a house, will be very much modern, bit classical. I'd like to get a little tone of French in. I like modern, warm colors. You know, we have lots of paintings and objects, so the house will be full of those. What I'm really looking forward to is starting again.
Yeah.
Not bringing any furniture other than one or two heirlooms.
Hmm.
You know, not bringing the Delph.
Yeah. Just right
Not bringing my pots and pans.
now. Which you're using more now than ever.
Yeah, but I'll bring my knives
Okay.
and my chopping board, which I are particularly attached to. But I just think when you move house, it's like all the linen will be gone, all the towels, everything.
Yeah, I know. It's a fresh start.
Oh, it's wonderful to do that. It's so healthy.
Oh,
And
yeah.
also, it's amazing. Like when we moved 2 years ago,
Hmm.
and we're not. I didn't think we were hoarders, but after the second skip left, I was horrified.
Oh my God. We're all secret hoarders.
We are. So
We are.
I find that amazing. I find so that's the excitement for Martin and myself, which we're really excited about.
I bet you are. You're going to have to documentate that. Everyone's going to want to see a bit of that.
Yeah, well, I'm going to do that. I'm also going to, with the house in Roscommon, I'm going to do that as sort of a little every 2 weeks to watch that going up.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, yeah.
And what's your morning ritual? How do you start your morning?
With a cup of coffee.
Okay.
I'd have to say it should be exercise, but I'd have to say I'm not the best at exercise. And so I like to get up about 7:30, quarter
Hmm.
to 8. I would have got up earlier. The whole COVID thing has changed my whole sleep pattern. So I used to go to bed at 10:30 and get up at 7.
Hmm.
And now I go to bed at 12. And maybe I don't even get up until 8:30 or 9.
Maybe that's the clock for you.
Do you know? And I find that's that sort of everything moved 2 hours on me. But
I
it's
know.
great.
And you're not sitting in traffic in the morning, so don't
No,
forget.
no, no.
You can be at your desk on time at 9 o'clock in the morning.
But I also find now that sometimes you'll go. Um, you might even say, well, you might have a bit of sort of catching up or something to do, which I would never have done at home.
Hmm.
And now sometimes I say, well, it's 4 o'clock, I'll go home. And I'll actually do work at home.
Yeah.
Because now I know I can, which is
Oh,
a stupid statement, isn't it? I always knew I could, but I
I know.
avoided it.
It's the very same for us. It's totally changed things for us. This has been a major game changer. We see things very differently now. Definitely. We never thought it was possible to be as productive as we've been from home, working remotely and virtually. It's incredible.
It is, yeah. It is. It really is. And also, I think what's interesting is so I have a 2 o'clock meeting now on a con call. And while the meeting takes longer, because this is the meeting and you can't see the person afterwards, or you
Yeah.
can't see two of them afterwards, other than having another Zoom meeting, you
Hmm.
tend to focus and ensure that you get through everything.
Yes, that's true. Because when they're gone, they're gone.
Yeah.
And are you a spiritual person, you?
No, no.
Okay.
I do believe in, I don't believe in an afterlife or anything. I do believe we have a responsibility when we come into the earth that we leave with the same or
Hmm.
less.
Okay.
Um, Martin and I have no kids, so we have no need to hoard anything for anyone.
Hmm.
And I believe that we have a responsibility to others, uh, to help them and to look after our environment and the way we live, and to respect the fact that other people are in different journeys and other people have difficult journeys.
Yeah, that's spirituality, though.
Oh, now
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. So it's nothing to do with religion. It's just, it's about being in touch with, I guess, yourself and nature and being good to your neighbors and looking out for one another and kindness and all those things.
Yeah, there's. I also think there's an assumption that everybody's in a good mood,
That's so true.
and it's okay not to be in a good mood. And more importantly, it's all right to say, having an off day. And if I'm odd with you, just take that into account.
Yeah, fair. I mean, we're human.
Yeah.
Definitely. You can't always be switched on,
No, and the other thing about COVID is like as a sort of as a problem drinker in the past. I'd be very aware at the moment of the difficulties of people living with families and living
Mm.
with problem drinkers, where the paranoid level of those people at the moment is elevated.
Mm.
And it must be such a struggle for the concerned persons, for the people living with these problem drinkers. And so, we talk about mental health, and I believe that there is a huge issue with mental health of so many
Mm.
who aren't being spoken about. I think we're talking about lots of things, but again, unfortunately, in Ireland, we've never managed to grapple with that conversation of alcohol.
Yeah, that's so true. But I think, though, a lot of people's mental health has been challenged during this time.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
But for me, as I said, there are these cohort or group that are fairly out there with the effects that the problem drinker has on the kids, on their families at home, particularly at the moment.
Yeah, I know. I've seen some television campaigns that are running at the moment about abuse, domestic abuse, and,
Yes,
it all, knits together, unfortunately, all those things.
it does.
There's just a
It
lot of
does.
frustration at home, and,
Yeah.
you know, it's just all terribly sad, very stressful and hard to watch, and I can't even imagine what that's like for some families.
No, it is, and again, they just need we know who these people are. I'm not, and you just need to ask, you know, are you all right?
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
Are you all right?
Yeah,
Is there anything I can do for you?
yeah,
There might be nothing, but it's very it to say, are you all right?
yeah. And to care, to pick up the phone and ask them how they are
Yeah,
means the world.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm. And how does social media fit into your life?
Oh, was that a good answer? Oh,
That was an
I have to tell you, I am now trying to do social media.
Okay.
I'm doing a little bit of Instagramming,
Hmm.
and I'm going to do more Instagramming. I enjoy it. I'm tweeting was interesting and very negative and very odd, grumpy people on it.
Right, I know.
So
There-
I think that the grumpy people should all go on tweeting, and they should all tweet one another grumpily.
But you have just so much really great content every day that I'm sure people would love to see more of and for you to
Well,
share.
I'm going to be doing more of it. I think that I just have to get it, get going on it. So I will be doing more, and I also think that it can be very inspiring. And also, I quite enjoy watching uh, the interaction, and there's an awful lot of positiveness in the social media.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. There's positives and negatives there, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I have met a lot of people through Instagram that I've never would have met before, otherwise. So, yeah, definitely is a good thing.
Yeah. So I just have to get my little fingers going.
Yeah, definitely. And how do you spend Christmas? Do you spend it in Ireland?
Yeah, well, we go down to friends. Patrick and Yvonne have our great friends and their family down outside Edenderry, and we go down there, and there's 15, 16 people uh, around the house and in the outbuildings over the Christmas period. So that's fabulous. And then so it's a big family gathering. I cook the turkey, and I don't. I'm very lucky. I cook the dinner, but I don't do the prep, and I don't have to wash up afterwards.
Oh, perfect. Yeah,
Yay!
yeah.
And then
And
we go away between Christmas and New Year,
mm,
usually somewhere down the country, stay in a nice hotel, chill out. That's a lovely little. I always find that period after between Christmas and New Year, you're always wondering what to do.
yeah, it's a tricky time. It's a
And
really
it's
fun
great.
week. Hmm.
So we go away, travel, we went to Donegal this year, and it was wonderful. What a fabulous county.
Donegal, fabulous. Where did you stay?
We stayed in just outside Donegal town in Loch Esk.
Oh, lovely. Nice. Yeah, it's
Amazing
beautiful.
experience.
It's really beautiful, Donegal.
Oh, stunning.
And what one piece in your home holds the most special memories for you?
Probably, that's an interesting one now. I think that sort of some of our paintings would
Hmm.
hold memories because of why or when or how they were bought. And there's very much uh, my relationship with Martin in the paintings.
Hmm.
And I think if you wanted something that puts a smile on your face and gives joy,
Yes.
it's those paintings.
Lovely. And where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Working away, I'll be TVing, doing my home of the year, the Great House, like the series of the Great House Revival won't go out until 2022.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah. So
Where will you be then?
I'd like another couple of those. Work wise, I'm enjoying work. We're doing fabulous stuff. Obviously, at the moment, it's a bit challenging, but like everything, it's swings and roundabouts.
Definitely. And what advice would you give to your younger self?
Um, Listen and don't be as I'm very impulsive. So my advice to myself would be uh, before you do it, don't. An awful lot of the time, it's quite interesting because problems arise, or issues, or relationships with people or, become difficult. And a lot of the time, we then actually decide, well, we'll do something about it, or, we'll address the problem or address the problem on a project. But an awful lot of the time, if you do nothing, you're better off because inevitably the problem solves itself.
Yeah, it's true. Sometimes that's happened where you might not actually pick up an email that went into your junk mail and it was like a panic email from somebody about something. And then when you eventually get it, it's completely solved itself. That's so true.
Yeah. So that's the advice I'd have given myself. Let things go.
Good. And what's the first thing you're going to do when the lockdown is fully lifted?
Go to Gigi's and have a fabulous dinner.
Good answer. Gigi's sounds like fun.
Gigi's fabulous, super Italian restaurant in Renla. And, what makes it is, in fact, the owner and the conviviality and charm of only an Italian man.
Fantastic. These are just some quick fire round of questions I'm going to ask you. So it's one or the other. You ready?
Great.
Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Bath or shower?
Shower.
Socks or jocks?
Socks.
Text or talk?
Tuck.
Bedside, left or right?
Right.
Cat or dog?
Dog.
Morning or night?
Morning.
Taxi or walk?
Lazy.
Home or abroad?
Both.
Eat in or take out?
Eat in.
Site visits or office meetings?
Site visits.
Home of the Year or the Great Revival?
Both.
Modern or classic design?
Love them.
Restoration or renovation?
Both.
Boris Johnson or Donald Trump?
Neither.
Good answer. Well, thank you very much, Hugh, for joining me today. And I hope you make it through the rest of this lockdown. And I look forward to seeing you in the future.
Very much looking forward to it. And thank you so much.
You're welcome. Take care. Stay safe.
Take care.